Hey everyone, today I want to just sit here and talk about something that's been on my mind. Um, Something that I kind of just want to get out there. I think I'm finally at a place where I want to get it out there. Um, I want to give you guys a little bit of backstory. As I mentioned, we had JoJo when I was 18, and that was in 2007. So she's almost going to be 10. When she was maybe about around 2 or a little bit before she turned 2, we kind of decided we wanted to have more children. We loved being parents, and we decided, let's try to give JoJo a brother or sister. And at first it was just kind of like, how babies are made. We just do our thing and that's it. Assuming that it would happen because that's how it was with JoJo. I didn't uh, do anything to, like, when I ovulated, figure out when I ovulated or anything like that. It was easy with JoJo. So I kind of assumed that's what would happen. But unfortunately, it wasn't. We ended up struggling with what is called second child infertility. So that is when you have no problem getting pregnant with your first child, and then when you try for a second child, it doesn't happen, or it's not happening. I don't think from the research that I did at the time, and this is years ago, I don't think they really know sometimes why it happens. Sometimes they do, but a lot of times they don't. And in my case, we kind of just tried, and we were not in denial, but we just didn't think that infertility could happen to us because we had had JoJo with no issues. So we just kind of assumed it's going to happen. We just got to be patient. And for maybe the first 3 to 4 years, we kind of just tried without any, we like I said, we didn't track my periods. We didn't track my ovulation. I didn't know anything about that. We just did it. As bluntly as that is, we just did it. And nothing was happening. And so finally I started to get a little bit worried, and I think I mentioned it to my regular doctor at my physical, and she said, well, you could either see a specialist and see what they tell you, or you could go on birth control for like 6 months, get off of it, and try to get pregnant. Sometimes that helps because it kicks everything back into gear. And the reason why she said that was because after I had JoJo, my period never went back to regular. I wasn't on a 28 or 30-day cycle anymore. Sometimes I would have no period for like 2 months or something, and then I would get a period that would like last forever, and it was never regular. I never knew when to expect my period. So I ended up making an appointment with a specialist, and when I explained to him my situation, he basically said, well, I'm going to put you on Clomid. And for anybody who doesn't know what Clomid is a medication that forces your ovaries to ovulate. So it basically just makes your ovaries release eggs. So the downfall, or I guess the risk of Clomid, is you can have multiple babies. So you can have twins, triplets, quadruplets, etc. at a time, or per pregnancy. And the other thing is, as a woman, you're only born with a certain amount of eggs, and you can't make more. So if you're not supposed to be on it for too long, because you're basically just having eggs thrown out there, and if they're not being fertilized, it's just a lost egg, and you can't get it back. So he put me on Clomid he said, we'll do 5 to 6 cycles, so 5 to 6 months. And at first I was excited because the way he talked about this medication was like, it's a miracle drug, you're gonna get pregnant, I'm pretty sure you'll be pregnant. Probably even as early as by no later than the 3rd cycle. And so I tried to explain to him, because what they do is they put you on it. Let's say they say you started on, I think it's like day 5 to, I don't know how many days. I think I took it for like 5 days out of my cycle. But it's usually in the beginning of the cycle. So it's a few days before you're supposed to ovulate. So essentially you take it, you're going to ovulate, and then you get your period or whatever. So what he said is do it this way, and then around the window that you're supposed to ovulate, you can buy these kits at a drugstore to that'll tell you whether you're ovulating or not. So because my period was so irregular, we didn't know around what day I was ovulating. So he said, start doing those kits from like day 9. I think he said day like 8 to day 20 something. So it was basically like, it felt like almost more than half of the month of me testing my urine every morning to see if I was ovulating. So I did that for about 6 months. I never, ever got a positive on ovulating. And I called him and I told him that. I think after like the second cycle, I said, it's hard for me because the idea of these ovulation tests is I was supposed to only do it maybe for the first and maybe even second cycle just to get an idea of when the medication was going to make me ovulate so I would know for subsequent months. And the first month came around, I never got it positive. The second month came around, I never got it positive. And after that, I called him. I said, look, I don't know if this medication is not working or if I'm doing something wrong, but I'm not getting a positive on actually ovulating. So I'm not ovulating. I assumed. And I said, I just think if we can get my period in sync and back to normal, maybe that would be the better step. But it's not that he didn't listen to me. It was more like, no, it's fine. Just we'll see you after 6 cycles. So I did it for the 6 cycles. I never got a positive. I tested the whole 6 months with those ovulation kits. I never got a positive that I ovulated. And it was really disheartening during that time because you're supposed to get a positive and okay, let's try. Today is the day. And we never got that. And then it was just disheartening because I felt like I was promised so much by my doctor. It's going to happen. And obviously he has no way of knowing, but I was just so hopeful. And then nothing happened. So I did that. And then after that, my doctor wanted to do a sperm analysis on my husband. So my husband went to the clinic and had a sperm analysis. He got his results maybe like a month later, and it turned out that everything was normal. Everything was normal for my husband, so there was no issue. So then hearing that is a relief because he was beating himself up thinking that it was him, but then the blame kind of turned back on me. And my husband never made me feel like it's your fault. It was me. I felt like the failure. I felt like I was the problem. So after that, we were able to eliminate my husband as the issue. So I think I got an ultrasound done. And it wasn't any kind of ultrasound. It's an ultrasound where you have to drink, I don't know, I think it felt like I had to drink like 3 water bottles before, and you can't pee. You have to hold your urine, and it's really uncomfortable because you have to go, but you can't. And then they put in the ultrasound vaginally. And so you have a full bladder. It feels uncomfortable. It was really painful. And so they kind of just check out the uterus to see that everything's normal, that you don't have like a cyst or anything. That all came back normal. So that was a positive that it came back normal. However, I was still frustrated because I didn't have an answer. After that, I think I got labs done, and I had to go on a specific day of my cycle, which yet again made it difficult to go on that day because I didn't know what day of my cycle was because I was all over the place. So I think I got the labs done, and after that, I was just like, I'm done. I'm done, like, doing this whole doctor thing and forcing, and it almost felt like I was trying to play God. I was like, I'm done. And so we kind of laid off the whole doctor, going, trying to find an answer and everything. We kind of laid off of that. And we turned to, there's an app called the Glow app. And I downloaded that and I started tracking my periods. At this point, this is okay, I'm going to get serious on like tracking my periods. I kind of know when you ovulate, and you know, I can do all this based on my symptoms. We started to do that. I had my husband download the same app, and he did too, and it has a part for your partner too, and so he puts in his information and his symptoms for the day and all that. So we did that for a few months. I would probably say maybe actually close to a year. And still nothing. Keep in mind, this whole time, if not almost every month, it was maybe every other month that I was taking a pregnancy test, because my period was always irregular, and then I would get the really, classic pregnancy symptoms, and maybe it was just my head messing with me, but I was constantly taking pregnancy tests, and every month was a disappointment. Like, in your face, you're still not pregnant. And it was just an emotional roller coaster. It was really, really difficult. And after that, now we're looking at like early 2016, I made the decision I wanted to go on Accutane. And Accutane's a medication that you can't get pregnant. It's to treat severe acne, and I wanted to go on it, and so you cannot get pregnant at all, and you have to be on some sort of birth control. So my doctor put me on an oral birth control. So after that, sure enough, my period was regular again. I was on a 28-day cycle. And yeah, there was no issue. I think I started the birth control maybe like February of 2016, and I was on it until December of 2016. At the end of December, I was really hopeful. I kind of just said, maybe now that my period's regular, maybe I could get pregnant. And my doctor had given me the clearance to try to get pregnant since the Accutane medication was already out of my system by then. So got off of it, and I kind of mentioned it to my husband, like, this might make it easier for us to get pregnant. January came around and nothing happened. So I was like, well, nothing's happening. February, the same thing. And I think February was the last time I got a negative pregnancy test. And I was just like, I'm done. Because the thing with infertility is you are continuously get like these little signs of hope. Like, you hear of somebody who tries this new thing that you haven't tried. You're like, that could work. And so then you try that thing, and then if it fails, it's such a letdown. And you go through this up and down roller coaster, and it's really disheartening. And so in February, got another negative pregnancy test result, and it was really disheartening. And I just kind of sat there in the bathroom crying, and I had this moment when I was talking to God, and I just told God, if I'm not meant to be a mom, I'm going to accept it. I think that's the case, is that I'm not meant to be a mom again, and I just ask for you to give me the strength to be okay with it and to accept it. And I kept just praying to God, and I just said, I just really wanted another baby so my Jojo would have a brother or sister. I don't want my Jojo to grow up alone. I don't want her to not have a sibling. And most importantly, the day that Hector and I are gone, I want her to have a support system. And then in April, I was late. I wasn't getting my period, and I kind of just assumed, like, no, it's just my period's probably finally okay, we're out of whack. And like I mentioned prior, I would skip months, and I was not pregnant, obviously. So my husband, still very hopeful, was telling me, well, you should take a pregnancy test. And at that point, I was just like, in my mind, I didn't want to take another one because I didn't want to be disappointed again. I didn't want to get like my hopes up and then be disappointed, again. And so I was about, at that point, 2 weeks late, and I told him, give me 1 more week. I'm pretty sure it's just my cycle's going back to normal. And so like I said, the 2 weeks passed, and then May 3rd came around, and I still hadn't gotten my period. And so I went to go get a pregnancy test, and that night before, I was crying, driving to the store to get the pregnancy test. And I'm crying, and I'm talking to God, and I'm telling God, I know I'm not pregnant. I know I'm not. And I just need you to help me with my husband and help him understand that I'm not, and that I maybe will never be. And help him accept me for me and not being able to possibly ever give him another child. The next day, I take the test, and that's when we found out we were pregnant with Abel. So, I guess the reason why I'm sharing this is nobody knew that we were struggling with infertility. I didn't tell my family. He didn't tell his family. I told my best friend maybe like 2 or 3 years ago. And that was about it. After that, I told 2 of my other friends, and this wasn't until the end of last year. But other than that, nobody knew. And so it adds another layer of hurt, that you struggled for so long, you wanted this baby for so long, and then it's like a cruel joke. You get him only for him to be ripped away from you again, And it's made it more difficult, because we get comments like, you guys could just have another baby, or you at least got pregnant, or this. It's like, you have no fucking clue. Like, you have no clue how much we struggled just to get that positive. And and it was really emotional going through infertility. And I know I'm lucky that at least that I have a child. Like, I don't forget that. I don't forget that I'm lucky that I have JoJo, that I had the opportunity to be a mother. And I always prayed for, I have a couple of friends who struggle with infertility too, and who have struggled for a lot longer than I have. And some of them don't even have children. And I pray for them. I prayed for them all the time, that they would get pregnant, that they deserved to be parents, that they deserved to know the feeling of having someone you love more than yourself. So I'm not trying to be selfish and not acknowledge the fact that I have a daughter. I got that chance, and I know some people never get that chance. But it's really, regardless of what type of infertility you're going through, it's really, really hard. And it was so hard for me, because I felt like the failure. I felt like I couldn't do it. And I felt so ashamed of myself, which is why I didn't want to tell anybody, because I didn't want people asking me, well, did you do this? Did you do that? We tried a lot of things. And we tried for a long time. And ultimately, it came down to something being wrong with me, and we never got the answer. And we tried as much as we financially could. I don't have money to go do IVF or, more extensive procedures. So we tried what we financially could afford. And we even talked about if by this year that we would adopt a child. We had already explored other options, and we had already settled with never being able to have kids on our own. And so it's so painful to have already had convinced yourself that you weren't going to have a kid or another child, and then you get pregnant. And I was so excited. I was in shock. I couldn't believe it. But I was excited. I was so happy. And even then, I was so conscientious of my friends who were struggling too. I didn't want to come off like I was showing off, or I think it made me more sad because I wanted them to feel what I was feeling. I wanted them to be just as happy as I was. And then everything went horribly wrong. So I guess I wanted to just make this video because I'm hoping now that I have put it out there, it'd be easier to be truthful to myself, be honest with people. Not that I owe anybody an explanation, but it's painful when people tell me that we could just try to have another baby when I can't even imagine trying to go through this process again anytime soon. And it just, he was our miracle baby, and I don't know how often miracles come around. So I plan from this day forward being honest with myself and honest with other people. That, and I'm gonna stand by it. That, yeah, we struggled with infertility for over 7 years, and it's what made this it's what made Abel so special. It's what made him so wanted, so loved, and such a heartbreak to lose him when we did. So yeah, for anybody who is struggling with infertility, whether it's second child infertility or just infertility in general, I'm really sorry. I can't sit here and tell you I understand what you feel, because I know everybody is different, everybody feels different. But I'm sorry that you're going through that. I'm sorry. It's not fair. It sucks. Thank you for watching if you're watching this, and thank you for letting me sit down here and just ramble on about what I feel or what I want to get off my chest at the time. Bye, guys.